Hello, welcome once again to The Forest. It's a Frankly Harry podcast. I'm your host, Frank Weber. Glad once again you can join me today. I wanted to discuss, before the summer gets too far away from us, a couple of summerish topics, but also with some additional value, or at least I think there's some additional value there. You be the judge of that. Hopefully there'll be a little comedy here too, but years ago, when I was about half my age, I think it was the summer of 2001, and I had the summer off. I had just completed my first year of dental school. I took a job as a lifeguard for the city of Plano, and I only worked there for the 3 months or so. Really enjoyed it, was able to guard people's lives, pay attention to them, while getting a tan, take my shirt off, meet some great people. Made a few kids cry, for breaking the rules. I was probably a little bit stricter than some of the other ones. Really enjoyed that job. Paid pretty well, considering my background and training. That was the only year I did it. I really wish I had done it a lot more years than I did. And I was always weirded out by some of the other kids. That most of the other people working there were younger than me, and a lot of them still hated working or always wanted time off. And I always thought it was kind of a vacation, really. And so I could never figure that out from them. They could have been out there flipping burgers or working as a cashier indoors or whatever, and that's right for some people. I'm not knocking that, but anyway, that was a great job, and it was a great memory, and I wish, like I said, I had done that when I was even younger and before I had gotten too much into school and training for a real career and a vocation at that time. Have great memories of that and a certain fondness of it, and I can't believe it's already been 23 years. Really don't know where the time goes. But I ran across, related to that topic, this old obscure movie on the Movie Channel this month, which the Movie Channel I believe is related to Showtime and CBS and Paramount. It was called Lifeguard, from the summer of 1976, bicentennial year. And of all people, it starred a number of names. We won't get into all of them here, but it starred Sam Elliott in his breakout role, apparently, from what I understand from his biography. You know Sam Elliott from a lot of different things. I think he still voices the Dodge Ram commercials, and I, of course, will forever remember him as Patrick Swayze's mentor in the best bad movie ever made, Roadhouse, which obviously should be on your watch list, somewhere near the top, I hope, if you haven't seen it before. But anyway, there's this movie Lifeguard where he, to give it to you in a nutshell, plays a 32-year-old lifeguard working in LA area beach. And there's some pressure on him to, I guess you could say, grow up and settle down. I know there was one of them. One thing came from his parents, particularly his dad, who wanted him to get a real job after he had been lifeguarding for like 8 years or something like that. And then he ran into a classmate who was talking him into, or recruiting him to maybe go and work at a Porsche dealership where he could make a lot more money and maybe even have a little bit more prestige. And then there was also some pressure from various relationships that he had throughout the movie, and went to his high school reunion where he saw the Porsche guy, but also an old flame named Kathy, and began a relationship with her. I don't I'm not really great at these reviews. I used to do a lot of reviews on the old podcast, Frank Weber's Party, so I'm trying not to give you too many details, but it's kind of a weird coming of age movie. You could say 32 is kind of a weird age for coming of age, if that makes sense. It's not coming of age in terms of teenagers or young adults or even middle-aged guys like me who feel like we're going through a midlife crisis a lot of times. So it was unusual in that, but the moral of the story, I think, at the end was that he kind of did life his own way and that he was ultimately contented and continued to lifeguard. I don't know if he wound up with Kathy or not. The movie was very uneven and did not say for sure if they wound up getting into a deeper relationship than they did. But I would tell you to check it out. It's definitely good from a nostalgia point of view. It's a great time capsule, but from a lot of the human stories that are involved in that movie, it's not outdated. And the other thing I could tell you, if you ask me if it was a great movie or not, I would say no, it's not a great movie. But is it devoid of any and all value? I would tell you no, it's not. It's an interesting look, and I think in the end, like I said, I think he's happy and contented. He wound up doing things his own way, which is kind of what I'm trying to do with this show and some other things like the book writing and whatnot right now. So I feel a little bit of a connection there. You do things your own way and you take risks, and hopefully you're ultimately successful at it. I kind of think about certain people that you can like or dislike or agree with or disagree with, people who are maybe kind of controversial. I think a lot about Richard Pryor, the late Richard Pryor, as a comedian. Took a lot of risks, but did his own thing. He was very successful at it. I could think of a guy like Seth MacFarlane, controversial in a lot of his animated shows like Family Guy, but very successful. And none of them had to apologize for what they did or the lives they have lived. And I think Sam Elliott's character here, Rick is his name, did that in this movie. Now, I will tell you, for comedic reasons, that this, like I said, this is a very uneven movie, and it's not a great movie for a lot of reasons. It's somehow got a PG rating. It probably should be closer to R. There's at least 3 nude scenes in it. He has a relationship initially with a flight attendant who was played by a young woman at the time named Sharon Weber, and she briefly shows a little bit of everything. Somehow they were able to get away with that. There was a scene where another woman, a beautiful woman, is on the beach posing for pictures. I think she was maybe in Playboy as well. I think Sharon Weber maybe was, if I remember reading that right. But this other lady on the beach, these horny prepubescent boys basically assault her while she's getting these pictures taken so that they can rip off her top. And so it's not a very clean or funny scene. It looks like she's in trouble. So that was kind of disturbing. And there's boobs in that scene as well. And then at the end, Kathy, who's played by Ann Archer, shows a little boob as well. He has a relationship with Kathleen Quinlan, who is believed to only be in the movie 17, so she's technically underage and it's illegal. That's makes it controversial and probably would up its rating if it were released today, I imagine. That character had a crush on him. And then a lot of the other scenes in it, a lot of the beach happenings and the rescues are pretty corny. They're lighthearted, but they don't make a hell of a lot of sense to me. But I would certainly check it out. It's worth a look. Let's see. I'm trying to. Oh yeah. So what I was going to say is, Sam Elliott as a pretty young man in this movie. I say this as a straight guy who's very comfortable with my own sexuality. He looks tremendous in this movie. And if you think about it, if you were in Southern California on the beach doing lifeguard work in the mid-'70s, where there's still a lot of sleeping around and free love era, but the 60s recreational drug era and the hallucinogens and stuff, a lot of that stuff has gone by the wayside and it's outlawed. But this is still pre-AIDS and essentially pre-cocaine era as well, so it would have been very intriguing to be in that location at that time. You could see why he would pick up a lot of women. They made his job pretty ideal, and he got paid enough apparently to live a fairly decent lifestyle. He owned a Corvette Stingray in the movie, and I think it was a 70s model. Those were not the most favorite. The 70s was a shitty time for cars, but they made the job of lifeguarding appear pretty glamorous in the show. And anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say about that movie. Like I always say, I would recommend it. Don't get your hopes too high, and be willing to be offended, perhaps, or taken aback by some of the things that happen in it. But yeah, it's got a little bit of value in it. It's just not that great. Anyway, I was thinking also too, and we just mentioned Richard Pryor. He took a lot of risks, and one of the things he did, he wrote a lot of the N-word jokes for Blazing Saddles. Don't know if a lot of people know that, and of course that was a satire of not just Westerns, but the Old West and racism, which is why those jokes were written. And I can't remember if he had a role, or he was supposed to have did he write a little bit, or he was just supposed to act in History of the World Part 1, which I think Gregory Hines took over for him because he had the freebase accident back then. But just wanted to tell you a little bit more about him, since I had mentioned Seth MacFarlane as well and his shows. But anyway, I really enjoy doing this podcast for you every week. I'm just really I'm excited but a little frustrated about moving it forward. I always talk about getting guests on the show, and I think that will eventually happen, and I'm still working on it. It's not the easiest thing in the world for me to carry on a one-on-one conversation, so that's why I've been a little bit hesitant about it. I have been thinking about future topics. I actually have one episode that's in the hopper here about a football book that I read a few weeks ago, and that is kind of a review. I haven't released it yet, but I probably will as we get closer to the football season. I was thinking about doing a show about one episode about voting habits and voting statistics, and even though I don't know that I could really explain what is happening with that in our presidential elections in the last several decades, I still find the stats to be interesting, and would love to talk about that, in addition to this specific election, whoever winds up running against, whether it's Donald Trump running against, well, it's not Biden anymore, but Harris or maybe somebody else. We've really lived in some strange, unprecedented times. But those are kind of some things that are on my radar and things that I've been thinking about. But I would really love to hear from you and your comments and your suggestions for the show. Have some contact information on the show description, and then I'm also on some social media sites. So I'd love to hear your comments and suggestions. I ask you again to keep hitting the subscribe button and telling family and friends about me and about this forest that we come into. Hopefully we can see the forest for the trees and all these deep issues and subjects we talk about each and every week. But anyway, that's about all for now. Hopefully you're staying dry. Well, staying dry. It hasn't been raining here. It's just been super, super hot. So hopefully you're staying cool and hydrated and having a good summer. And look forward to seeing you again next week in the forest. And until then, this is Frank Weber saying bye.